going to be talking about restorative justice in the prison service.
Speaking
and so we're talking to the acting Commissioner of Prison, Mr. Deopersad Ramoutar. Mr. Ramoutar, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Now.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. It's Deopersad Ramoutar, not Deopersad.
Say it again for me. Deopersad Ramoutar.
That is correct.
And you're the acting Commissioner of Prisons, yes?
Yes, that is correct, yes.
All right, Mr. Ramoutar. So let's start off right now. What is restorative justice?
Okay, let me say good morning to you and the studio there, morning to your listenership, morning to my officers, and morning to my inmates. Restorative justice, are you hearing me?
Yes, I am, loud and clear.
Right, restorative justice, I can give you the academic response.
Sure.
And there are various degrees and concepts. But I'll be more down to earth and give you restorative justice as a practitioner in this country and at the prisons.
Right.
Restorative justice is a concept. It's a way of thinking. It's not something hard and fast. It's an idea you have to grasp onto and buy into. In a nutshell, it causes the offender to have a sense of remorse. It allows the victim a voice so that the victim can have a say in how the offender is awarded punishment. There is a punishment.
Right.
That's why it's called victim-offender mediation or victim-offender approaches or restorative justice. So it's to restore whatever harm or hurt or feeling that was done. And it can range from a very minimum offense to something quite major. Even though the major ones tend to have a lot of criticism, thinking that restorative justice is a soft approach. I mentioned earlier in this week that restorative justice tends to work upon the emotions of persons. So it would ask the victim to harness their anger, to control how they feel so that they can have closure in the offenses committed upon them. It causes the offender to see the real harm that was done. He gets to understand the point and perspective from the victim, and hopefully at a good intervention, he is genuinely remorseful for what he would have done.
Right.
Restorative justice, I would say, is 10 or 15% to do with the prison service. And that's where a lot of misconceptions takes place. People think it's the other way around. That's about for prisoners and the prison service. No. Restorative justice approaches has to do with all of us who have some sort of authority. So it comes from parenting. It speaks to the teachers at school. It speaks to the principal with his staff members. It speaks to police officers. It speaks to judicial officers. And
right. Now, Mr. Ramoutar, but as it relates to the prison service, when was this first implemented in the prison service? Because I understand what you're saying. It can be a form of justice that's used in different sectors. But when was it first implemented in the prison service?
Well, the concept was introduced, so it would not have a date to say that it was introduced. There has been no policy to say that give a date when it started. But the task force report, 2002 task force report, can be used as a benchmark or measure of when the idea of restorative justice was introduced.
Okay.
So that's look at 20 years ago.
Wow, 20 years ago. And so we're having Restorative Justice Week that's taking place this week. Why is it significant for something like this to be celebrated?
Okay, so for the prison service, 20 years ago, the concept would have been introduced, and yet still, the nation, all other persons are unclear as regards to what it is. So just like any other celebration, we have an annual sensitization activity. So where we have comments being made, persons being allowed to ask questions, and we have forums just to sensitize people and cause exactly what's happening right now. For interviews to take place, a discussion. We have a forum at the prison service at our sports club today. We are the December Anglican Church in Deopersad, where we have inmates who are skilled in barbering and cosmetology. tending to the age population there, just to show an initiative of giving back to the community.
Right. And so I'm looking at a document here, Mr. Ramoutar, and I'm seeing that it would have started on Monday. You would have panel discussion. There's also a mentoring session and a gospel concert that's taking place tomorrow.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, can you tell us some more about it?
Well, the panel discussion on Monday, it was aired already on the media, where we had myself, Justice Sumeri Hines, Mr. Walter from Prison Transformation Unit, and the Chief Welfare Officer and Pastor Parks. Inmates and members of the general public were in the audience, and they were allowed to ask questions. Each panel were allowed to speak on their take on restorative justice. Tuesday was a second session where we allowed more inmate participation, and it was very important for inmates to air their views and to speak on what's their take on restorative justice, and even to be critical to us in having us listen to what we need to do more.
Right. And then the mentoring session and the concert that's taking place tomorrow. Can you share some more details on that as well?
Yes, well, it's where we have persons who I would call reformed inmates that we go out on a caravan in the community and allow them to speak. They give testimony about themselves, they give life experiences, and, well, we are moving from mentoring to motivational caravan. And it's just a snapshot in what we do throughout the year. We visit schools and community doing this motivational talk.
Right. And I see
we are trying to be more therapeutic than just a one-time and causing a wow event.
Right.
To be more strategic in our intervention.
Yeah, and I see the final day on Friday. There is an MSP inmates band and concert. That looks like fun. Tell us about that one.
Yes, well, we have a musical band comprises of inmates who have been practicing for many years in prison. They are very effective. They are very efficient, very skillful in what they do, and we often go out to the community organizations and play for free.
Right. Okay.
So we'll be showcasing our talent for inmate band.
Okay.
Prior to COVID, we had 3 inmate bands, one at MSP, one at Port of Spain Prison, and Carrera Prison. But because of the lack of resources and the shutdown and so on, we have one functioning band, and that's the band will be demonstrating and showing their skills on Friday.
Right. Now, Mr. Ramoutar, going back to restorative justice, I'm also wondering the effect this is going to have on the aged population or the aged population who are currently incarcerated.
Yes, that is my concern also. The prison service has reformed dozens and dozens of inmates. They have been through our system. They have been with us over 30 plus years. Some persons are even up to 39 years in prison. I met them in prison. I'm here 34 years now. And if we as a prison service saying that we have reformed these individuals, they are fit for discharge and reintegration, and they are not being reintegrated, then that throws a damper on our work, our effort.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the prison service mandate is to reform inmates, and we have done so, then the stakeholders that we need to take the other step forward and have these persons reintegrated, whom we are giving the guarantee that they are fit for discharge. Mm-hmm. And they are, yes, the age population. They are not a person who just serve small sentences. We have the age population dying of lifestyle diseases in the prison.
Right.
We think that families should be united, and with their experience in prison, they can go home, go to the communities, and be a resource as elders in the community where they can administer more mentorship and give us experiences as a deterrent not to come into prison.
Right. So, Mr. Ramoutar, then are you saying that as part of the restorative justice practice, that there's also a reintegration that you help especially those old inmates? Is it part of a reintegration process as well, so that when they come outside, they can be able to adjust?
Yes, exactly. The whole purpose of restorative justice is no one needs to be punished forever and ever.
Right.
At some point in time, the punishment should show the crime. And where we have the punishment wavering, let's say for life sentences, and there's a process for it to be reviewed every so often, we need to take the next step forward and for reintegration. It's not something we should be afraid of. Of course, there would be the naysayers, but those persons, I would say, probably in their right, they are the victims. But very well how we are treating with the offenders, we need to have mechanism in place for the victims also, for they to have closure for the crime that was committed upon them.
Yeah. Mr. Ramoutar, before we close, I just wanted to ask if you can advise the public, because I understand that restorative justice is needed. I also understand that there's also that reintegration process. But I also know that there are some people who might be a bit concerned when these inmates are eventually released and they come out of prison and they have to mix with the general population. So is there any words you can tell the population? Is it that we shouldn't be afraid? Is it that we shouldn't be concerned? I mean, what sort of advice can you give them?
I would say to the public that not all prisoners should be treated with a broad brush approach. There are inmates, I made a bold statement on Monday. I said there are some inmates who are better than some of my officers. I have some crooked officers, small in number, and they walk among the community and nobody's afraid of them. Sometimes they're in the neighborhood and you don't even know they are crooked officers. So to the inmates who have been reformed, their character is as good as any one of us who are law-abiding now. They are remorseful for what they did. They are willing to give back in society. They have been trained in skills trade. They have been trained in skills of the mind, critical thinking. A lot of us can learn anger management from them. There is no need to be afraid of inmates who have been reformed.
All right.
They are not those youngsters who commit those gruesome crimes. They are not.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Ramoutar, well, thank you so much for joining us on the Now Show, and all the best with the rest of these, with all the events for the end of the week.
Thank you for the hearing, ma'am, and the pleasure has been mine. Thank you.